Did you guys meet in person yesterday?
We did not. I ended up not doing it just because it was too hectic, crazy for here.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
things are nuts. So hopefully after I get moved in a few weeks, we'll be able to set something up. But right now we're just going to wait. And I put in the email, if you guys saw it. If you're not getting emails, please let me know. I will forward you the emails. But I know I forwarded to Gwen and Jen. Because I know they've had trouble in the past. We are not going to have a meeting next week, only because I'm moving on Tuesday, and I just, in case internet's not working and all that stuff, I just figured, what, next week we'll take a vacation and then we'll come right back to it the following week. So today we're going to finish off our Analyze This series. Well, I don't want to say finish off. I do have one more part I want to do when we come back in 2 weeks, but this is all about Google Analytics and, just kind of feeling our way around it a little bit and looking into it and just things that you should be paying attention to in the Google Analytics if you have it set up, if you have a website. And so we'll go ahead and get started. And if anybody wants to chime in, please do. Last week was awesome. So if you weren't here last week, I think most of you were, but if you weren't here, we started doing now the first meeting of the month. So whatever the first week of the month is, we're going to do the group coaching calls. So everyone bring their questions, things they want to talk about. And last week, we gleaned a lot of good insight. So one thing we did talk about last week that I forgot to put in the email today is we were talking about subtitling your videos. And I had mentioned that Katrina Aronson does a really good job with hers. And so I reached out to her, and she actually uses the teleprompter app. And so she goes ahead and puts her script in so that she can use it as a teleprompter, and then she records on that, and it actually puts the words in, but not from the script, from what you actually say. So if you go off script, it actually dictates what you said. So she said it works really well for her. And so I just wanted to put that out there and let you guys know that that's what she's using, because I thought it did a great job. So if you have something that you're like a video, it's not going to work as well for something off the cuff or whatever. But if you have something, set up that you're kind of writing out a script for, then that's a really good, a good app to try out. So wanted to put that out there. And Jessica said she's going to try to do that today. That's awesome. Good. Let us know how it goes. Love to hear it. Okay, so let's talk about Google a little bit. So this is the big overwhelming one. I started looking into it a few weeks ago when I was preparing for last week's meeting. And that's what ended up making me like, okay, I'm not ready for this, because it's very overwhelming when you just kind of take a look at Google Analytics. But let's start from square one. And that is, you have to have a website to use Google Analytics, right? So it doesn't matter what type of website it is, whether it's, WordPress, Shopify, Squarespace, Wix, whatever it is, you can apply the Google Analytics tool and use it and glean a lot of information. It's a free tool, and, Google is kind of like the master of all the domain, right? So you want to be involved in that and you want to know exactly what it is that they have to tell you. There are a couple other things that I'll get into detail where you can get a little further in, but I'm just going to give you a good overview and use Illuminative, the company I'm consulting for, use their Google Analytics to show you guys what I'm talking about. So first, let's talk about getting it installed on your website. So if you have not done so and you want to install Google Analytics, you can do it yourself. I mean, if you have a web developer or somebody that is, working on it for you, you can have them do it. It probably takes them minutes, right? They're probably very familiar. But for us, all you have to do is go to analytics.google.com, or just type in analytics in Google and it'll, bring it up. And you're going to just go ahead and get started by logging in with your Gmail or a Google account. If you don't have one, you have to create one. But that's basically like your Gmail account, and your anything you use for Google is going to be related through there. So are used through there, like your Gmail, Analytics. If you have, what other things are on there? Like if you have a YouTube site or a YouTube page, YouTube account, that can be on there. So it all can be connected. You can get to everything from one platform, from the Google. And so you start off by going to Google Analytics, you sign up for an analytics account, and they're going to give you an ID number. a Google ID, and you're going to have to actually go in and apply it to every single page on your website. However, we're not coders. I think we discussed that last week. Like, we are definitely not the most technical people. And so you can use a plugin. If you are a WordPress person, if you're using WordPress, like your site is more of a blog based website, then there's a plugin called Headers and Footers that you can use. But there's plugins for all the different sites, all the different platforms that you can use to do that for you. Basically, you get this plugin, which is kind of like an app for your website, right? So you get this plugin, and it's gonna prompt you. You're gonna put in that ID number, and then it will apply it to all the pages for you and connect it to Google Analytics for you. So it doesn't take, you can do it. Basically, you guys are all smart. You can do it. And if you go to YouTube and search how to set up Google Analytics on Shopify, or how to set up Google Analytics in Wix, or whatever site you're using, or whatever platform you're using, not site, sorry, platform or host you're using, you can find out how. There's tons of videos, and I think that you guys can accomplish it on your own. So once you have that set up, you are then sending all of the information, all of the actions that are taken on your page to Google Analytics, and it's collecting that data for you, collecting it and then putting it into reports for you. So it's doing all the hard work behind the scenes, and it's working while you're not working. And then you can go in and take a look at it and see what's happening on your website, but then use that data to improve the way your website is used, viewed, read, visited, all those good things. So let's see, you can make database decisions, based on these numbers, and then you can tailor your website for the user experience. So if Jess is doing, her website is set up, and I haven't looked at your website. I did when you first launched it, but I haven't been back there. But let's just say she had a spot or a page on her website that was all before and after pictures, right? And that's like the most visited page on her website. So she's going to make sure, because it is the most visited website or page on her website, she is going to make sure that it is the best user experience, that it's clear and concise, and that she's constantly updating it, because if that's where people are going the most, she's going to want people to stay or keep coming back. So it's a great place to focus on. So that's the kind of data you can use, and you can look at and then say, all right, how can I make this, more user-friendly, or how can I better my user experience? And then I've got some tips here too on how to get people to then visit other pages on your website, and how to get, how to get more out of it. So let's just keep moving here. There's a few like hot words, buzzwords that I want you guys to know. Acquisition. Acquisition is all the traffic that comes to your website from all the different channels. And so, of course, it's a broad, word acquisition, like how are people finding you and getting there to your website? But then you can drill it down, and you'll see in a minute when we go on to the Illuminative Google Analytics, like exactly how people are finding you and how they're getting there. There's social, which is social media, obviously. I read, and I'm going to have to follow up on this, but I read that actually Instagram is not a part of this number. Reason being that if somebody clicks on your website link from Instagram, it's actually considered a direct link, like a direct, like somebody went directly to it. I don't know why. Maybe it's because and this is just me guessing, like trying to do an educated guess here, but maybe because in your profile where you can put a link, you can change that often, right? It's not like it's something permanent there. Like I can change it to go to different landing pages, or I can change it to go to my email capture. And so because of that, it's not like every time they click on your Instagram profile, they're going to go directly to your website. So that's just my educated guess. But so through social, just remember that IG is not considered a part of that. Instagram is going to be part of the direct traffic. Again, I need to double check on that, but it does make sense to me. Other sites or other platforms that find you through them, your website is attached to it. Facebook, if somebody, your website is on there, if somebody clicks on that, they're coming straight from Facebook to your website. Pinterest, the same thing. If they click on it, they're going to your website. So just, kind of keep that in mind. There's obviously Google, that's like organic search, people searching for either your website or, something in keywords that your business has to do with. And then there is another site like a referral, like if somebody posted something about you, got your web, and provided a link, and then it's coming to you, that's another site. And then direct. So that is when somebody knows your URL and they actually type in www.thepophome.com. So that's direct. So just kind of keep those different ways in mind. And this acquisition is also going to tell you like not only how they get there, but then how many pages they view, how long they stay there, and it gets real detailed and you can get real dialed down. So we'll talk more about that as we go. Referrals is another big buzzword you want to remember, and that is another site sending traffic to you. So we just talked about that in the acquisition, but it's something you really want to pay attention to, because if you are putting all your efforts on in Facebook, let's say, but all your traffic is coming, not all, but a big majority of your traffic is coming from Pinterest and a much smaller one is coming from Facebook, you might be putting your efforts in the wrong spot. So just kind of keep that in mind, that the referrals are something to really pay attention to, because you really want to see where is this traffic coming from and how can I further develop that relationship? How can I make it better? There's an old saying, something like, it's a lot easier to get a repeat customer than it is to get a brand new customer, right? And so kind of it applies the same way. If Pinterest is driving a lot of your traffic to your website, it's a lot easier to get more people on Pinterest to come to you than to get a new person from TikTok over to you, or some other platform. So keep that in mind. Site behavior is another kind of buzzword that you want to remember. Site behavior is what happens when people are on your site, right? Like what's their flow? What's the behavior that they actually do and take when they get to your site? What pages are they looking at? How many page views? How many unique people are coming? How many repeat people are coming? What's the average time they're spending on a page? What's the most popular pages that you have? And then there's bounce rate. And bounce rate is a big buzzword that falls under the site behavior. Bounce rate, what it means is somebody comes to your page, if they spend less than a minute there, and they click the back button and get off of your website, they've bounced, right? So the longer they stay on your site and the more pages they click through, the better, or the lower your bounce rate is. So it works like in golf, like the lower the number, the better here. So you want people not to bounce off your site. You want them to stay on your site and to like glue themselves to it, right? So you want a lower bounce rate for your whole website, but keep in mind that bounce rate isn't always a bad thing, because there are certain times when you want them to bounce off a page. If they get to your offer, like if you're selling something, so let's say, Gwen has a course that she wants people to purchase, and they get to her page all about the course, but then they bounce off it really quick to purchase the course, then that's okay that set bounce rate is really high, because that just means people are like buying in right away and hopping off of that page. So when you're looking at bounce rates for your overall website, of course you want that to be low. If you're looking at a bounce rate for a particular page, just keep in mind that if it is higher than your average bounce rate, is there a reason behind it? Is it because you are actually trying to send them somewhere else to like another spot on your website, or even off of your website for some reason? Like if you're asking people to go to your Instagram, to go like and comment, then of course there's going to be a higher bounce rate. Well, we hope, that they're doing what you're asking them to. So just always keep that in mind. There are ways to improve your bounce rate. So this is another thing to look at. And it was really hard for me to gauge what a good bounce rate is through doing my research. But I would think that, and the general consensus, and it makes sense to me, is you want to be around the 50% mark, right? You want to at least have half the people that are coming to your site not immediately clicking off of them. However, it differs for industry. It differs for what your average, bounce rate is. I mean, if you have a bounce rate of 90% and then a month later you've gotten it down to 70, that's a huge win. That's a big win. So you're not going to be like, oh my God, I'm not at 50 yet. I mean, you're going to keep working towards it, but just kind of keep that in mind, that 50%, to me, in my mind, that kind of makes sense. Like if half the people are coming there and not immediately clicking out, then I must be doing something right. So The ways to improve that bounce rate, though, is within your pages to link to other pages, right? Or if you're writing posts, if you're actually doing blog posts, to link to other posts on your website. You're just trying to lead people to stay on your site. The same thing happens on YouTube. When you watch a YouTube video, they immediately line up the next video for you, or they provide a link to the next video. YouTubers that are really good at YouTube will put it at the end of their video, like a link so that you can go to their next video. So you want to provide a way for them to stay on, and to link to other topics that are the same. So if I have a sales page that I always have these people at, and in the sales page, I'm talking about the different things that Business Casual provides, I may provide links about those individual things that go to other pages. So you're just trying to keep them on the site. Another thing you can do is to make sure you have a search bar on your website. Again, this is very techy. And so if you don't know how to do it or you don't have it, maybe you can either YouTube it and find out how, or get someone to help. But a search bar is great because if people get to your website or to a particular page on your website and they don't see what they want, a search bar gives them the option to find exactly what they need. So it could keep them on longer. Another good thing to do is to do a sidebar on your pages, whether it's blog posts or the different pages on your website, like a little side, almost like a menu, but like bloggers will do it like most popular posts or, related posts, that sort of thing. So you can do it on your site as well, though, on like different pages if you're not a blogger, and like highlight the other places that you want them to visit on there. Like if you were offering different packages for something that you're selling, you could list those on the side so that they can click on. And then the last thing to do, not the last thing, but one of the last things I have listed is to collect emails. Because if they are bouncing off, but you're showing up their inbox, you may give them a good reason to come back and to visit. So make sure you're collecting those emails. Another thing you want to look at is geographical location. This is talking about the audience, and we've talked about this before on our different analytics, but knowing where your audience is can be really helpful for multiple reasons. But if you are a local business or you're someone who provides services just in town, you want to make sure that your website is being seen in town. And so if you're seeing the geographical locations and noticing that you don't have a lot of people looking from the Palm Beach County area, then that's something you want to work on your website and in the rest of the ways you're promoting it. So keep that in mind. Another thing to look at for the audience is new or returning. How many people are you getting new to your site and how many people are you getting to return? Again, it's just data that you can use to know, how can I make this the best experience for anyone, and how many new eyes am I getting? And I think that return rate, like people returning, really tells you if the content you're putting out is worth their time, worth coming back to, right? So if I'm trying to think of a good example, but Diana has a recipe blog. So if I go on her website one day and get a recipe, and then the next time I'm wanting to cook something and I think about Diana and go back, that's a huge win, right? That's a great win because she's got me coming back for more because her content was so good and it was exactly what I needed. It solved my problem. If I went to her website and used a recipe and either didn't like it or thought it was too difficult or, whatever, which would never happen, Diana. But, if that did, I may not go back to her site. So if she's seeing her type of website is something she wants people to return to. She wants to be a resource, right? A solution to this problem. And so if she's seeing a very low number of people returning, she can use that data to then, work on that, whether it's in her email or in her social or whatever it is, just to remind people like, hey, I'm not just like a one-off person here. I've got thousands of recipes for you. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's get into a little bit of the actual, I'm going to share my screen here and I'm going to show you the Illuminative analytics. All right. So this is the home page here, and can you guys all see it? Good. All right, this is the homepage here for analytics for, I'm sorry, that's not the homepage, that's landing pages. Let me get to the homepage. I'm gonna go to the homepage here. Now, this is a company that sells product. So of course we're gonna have revenue and money and dollars in here. We are a Shopify like on a Shopify platform. So we're connected to Shopify. So there's gonna be a little more data than a lot of you will use here, but this is for the last 7 days. You can see this is just the broad overview here. So we've had 3,400 users, $11,000 in revenue. Conversion rate, this is people coming to the site and then actually purchasing, 3%, and sessions 4,100. So if we've had 3,400 users but 4,100 sessions, that means we've had about 1,000 people returning, right? 1,300 people returning. So that's a good thing, I think. How do you acquire users? So the blue is a little confusing, but it goes from the bottom to the top there: social, email, direct, organic search, and other. So social is obviously our largest. Oh, cool. It provides the number here, actually. So social on Wednesday, let's just take, last Wednesday, we had 323 people come from our social, 190 from email, 148 from direct, so on. Y'all, 190 from email. I know we talked about this a little bit last week, but this is exactly why email is so important. If the social media channels shut down tomorrow, we would still have a good amount of people coming to our site. So just kind of keep that in mind. And remember that this is why I'm always preaching about the email. But you can see, though, that our social is a huge part of it. I will tell you that we do not have a big following on social media. Instagram is pretty much, there is a following, but we really get very little interaction on there. Facebook, we have a pretty good following. I'd say like 4,000 people likes or followers on our page. I can't remember which one it is, likes. I think it's likes. But we do Facebook ads. And so Facebook ads are where the majority of our business comes from. So just kind of keep that in mind. Here, we're United States. There are some other countries looking, but really it's the United States that it's where we ship to. So we only really want the United States people on here, not to be, anti other countries. It's just that we don't ship outside of the US. And then what pages do your users visit? So overwhelmingly, we go to the collections, our complete all collections page. It's almost double, well, not quite double, but almost double what the next one does. And so this tells me, like, I better make sure that page is freaking rocking, because that's where they're going. I know that the collections all page is connected to a lot of our Facebook ads, so that's why they're going there the most. But I better make sure that those pages are rocking. Let's see. I'm going to dig a little deeper in here. So I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to go to audience. And real time is what's actually happening on your website at the moment. I'll just go through the list here. So real time, there's only one person on our website right now, but you can actually see what's happening in real life. One thing with these analytics, just like Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, everything that we've talked about so far, is to not get too wrapped up in the day by day or minute to minute analytics, because it can be very addicting and can also be like a super high that you can ride, and it also be a super low. It's better to put yourself on a schedule, give yourself a time of the month or week, 2 weeks, whatever it is that you want to look at, and take a look. It's hard to get real data, real useful data, without having at least a few weeks, in there. And I would say a good month of what's going on, what's going on your site before you start making changes, and then giving whatever changes you made another month to acclimate. So like I said, it can get addicting. You can go in here in real time and be like, why aren't people on my page? What do I need to do? But, I suggest that to save your time and sanity, that you don't do that. Let's go into audience here. Let's look at a little more about our audience overview. So users, and this is, I think, set up for the last month, right? Or is it the last week? Did we say it was the last week? Sorry, I can't see all the things. It's the last week. So this is for the last week. Users, we've had 3,300, great. New users, 2,400. To me, that is awesome. I'm excited to get these new users on here. We have a collection, and the collection has not been replenished in a while. So the fact that we have new people coming to our website, it's all new to them. And so that's really exciting to me. And I want to continue to build my new user base because, like I said, at the moment, we don't have any new clothes. We do have like new collections, like new things I've put together, new things on our website, but it's exciting to get new users. Total sessions, 4,068. Number of sessions per user, that's 1.21, meaning they've come back, not full 2 times, but over these numbers here, average is about 1.21. And then page views, almost 20,000 page views. So that's pretty good, I think. The bounce rate is 40%. Again, it's really hard to determine. I've just started looking at this data, so I don't know if it's gone down or up over the last, while. I can dig in here in the analytics, but to me, a bounce rate of only 40% seems pretty good. These clothes, just like your services or your things that you guys are selling or that you're doing, are not for everyone, right? And when they get to your site, just because 100 people come to your site doesn't mean 100 people are going to buy in. But if I can get 60 of those people to stay on, right? If this bounce rate is 40%, if I can get 60, that's a pretty great number to me. So, that they're actually spending time on the site and learning about us. We can get here into country and city. I'm curious to see what city is. I didn't look at that before. Let's see. Hang on, let me move you guys out of the way so I can see over here. The city, I don't know, not set, doesn't say. I guess people don't put in what city they're in. Ashburn, I don't even know where that is. Maybe North Carolina? Sounds like a North Carolina name. New York, Atlanta. So what's surprising to me is that there's no Florida cities on here because we're a Florida-based company, but we don't sell as like a Florida company. We sell, we're a Florida business, but we are very beachy and stuff. So it's interesting to me that there's no Florida stuff on here. It might be something I want to kind of visit and say, maybe I need to focus a little more on our Florida people. All right. And then as you can see, you can get really deep in here into demographics, and who's using it. 65 plus. Wow. That's crazy. The majority of our users we know are 35 to 54 age. 21 plus 10 is 31. I don't want to say users, but the majority of our audience, like on social media and such, is 35 to 54 age range. But here, like, this is nothing to be ignored. This is a lot of people here up in this older age range. So it's interesting. Interest. I don't know how. I guess Google just knows everything about you, so they know your interest. So that's something cool to look at. We saw that they have that on Pinterest as well. So if you are trying to target certain people, you can see what their biggest interests are. The geographical location, we already looked at that, but you can dive deeper onto there. And mobile, I want to see this. From what we understand from our Shopify platform is that it's overwhelmingly our website is looked at on mobile. Yeah, and it's the same here. Our users, 71% of them are using our mobile, are using a mobile device to look at our website. So that's something you guys should be looking at, because I think a lot of times we design our website on a laptop, and because it's big and beautiful and we're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, but we forget or don't pay as much attention to the mobile version. So this is something you want to look at, because if a lot of people are looking at your site on mobile, it doesn't always mean it's optimized for that. And I'm sure you get that. You see a website, you click on a website or you click on an email or something, and it's not optimized for mobile, and like the words are broken up, the pictures aren't completely on the page or on the screen. And so just keep that in mind, because you want people to stay on your site and have a great experience. Make sure you know where they're coming from. I'm going to guess that most of us, the majority of people, are on mobile. Unless you are, when it comes to looking at things, wherever, I always grab my phone first, even if my laptop's open. I was just doing it a little while ago. My April, who I work for, was asking me a question, and instead of Googling it on my computer, I Googled it on my phone. So, and even though I'm on my computer, so just keep that in mind, that mobile is really, really important. So go ahead and go check and see where people are coming from. Acquisition. This is what I think is super important. This is where people are coming from and getting really drilled down in here. So we looked at that before, kind of on the overview page, and we saw that social is where the majority of our people are coming from. But I know that there is a way to drill down further in social and see yeah, here it is. So here is where these people are coming from. Now, it does have Instagram on here. I'm going to look into that whole thing about Instagram and find out. It might be that if people are clicking on your link in your bio that it doesn't count, but maybe if they're clicking on links from your actual posts, it counts, which would kind of make sense to me. Again, it's like an educated guess. However, you can see that the overwhelming social network that gets us, viewers is Facebook. I don't know, like Diana, I know that you're, big on Pinterest, and so is Dana as well. When you look at these things, do you see like a big, like what's your top social network that, if you're looking at it? So.
Mine is Pinterest by far.
Yeah.
Pinterest followed by Google organic search.
That's awesome.
Which is why I've been working on SEO, because it's important.
Yeah, I agree. That's really, so it's different for everyone. The two of them are bloggers. And so we've talked about this before, how Pinterest is so extremely important to bloggers. But if you guys are not using Pinterest, I think you are missing out, because your audience, for most of you, I don't think any of us not, maybe Jen's audience goes a little bit beyond, just the female audience that's on Pinterest. However, Pinterest can be such a resource for you, and not everybody is using it. Not everybody is doing it. To Dana and Diana, I'm sure they're inundated. Like, other bloggers use Pinterest like crazy, but really the other industries, ladies, like home organization, virtual assistant, all these different things that we're in, there is a lot of space there, a lot of room there, and a lot of opportunity. So I can tell you, home design, I was telling the girls before we started the call that my Pinterest board for this new house I'm moving into, I don't know, probably has 1,000 pins on it, but I'm seeing the same pins over and over. And I'm like, man, if somebody would just come in with more tropical decor or whatever, like West Indies, I would be pinning them and visiting them and all this stuff. So like I said, there is opportunity there. So make sure that, those of you that are not bloggers are starting to take advantage of Pinterest. We can get more into detail on that another time. But anyway, that's really good to know. Let's see. Landing pages, this is where they're coming into from social. So this is interesting to me, because the collections page I thought was where most, because it was the collections all page was my number one page coming in. However, on social, it's just illuminative.com. So it's kind of good to know. I'll have to look into that further. Okay. And then behavior. Behavior is the other big one we talked about before. So this is what people are actually doing when they get to your site, and how they're acting, what flow they're doing, where they're going. Let's see. So we can get into this here, but that's basically what we saw before, the page views, etc. Unique page views. That unique word means it's like one set of eyeballs. So just remember that, like page views, 19,000, whatever, but unique page views, like these are new eyeballs coming, or single eyeballs, I should say. So about 6,000 of that as people looking again. Average time on a page is 42 seconds. So that our bounce rate is about 40%. And the exit rate is 20%. So I'm assuming exit rate is probably just people completely getting off of your site. The bounce rate has to do with the individual pages. So the exit rate would be, the exit percentage would be when they're on there, they actually like getting off of there. So off the page, off your website. So just keep that in mind. Behavior flow. I know I had it written down here. Ooh, this is cool. This is really cool, you guys. This tells you where they are going. Once they come on from the landing page, 1,700 of them are on illuminative.com. That's what that is, the slash with nothing. Then where are they going? They're staying on there, it looks like, and then they are headed to collections, inspirational collections, dresses, particular pieces. I don't know. This is really cool to look at. So you guys can take a look in there once you get yours set up and see exactly where people are going. I really like that. And then for me, because this is a sales, a product business, I want to look at the conversion and see what's happening with people when, you know, they're actually making a purchase and buying. So I can get into this. What I would probably find most interesting is like what pieces. I know all of this information from Shopify, so I can get that information from them on a daily basis, and you know what pages are being, what products are being viewed the most, what are being put into carts the most, what is being abandoned the most, that sort of thing. But if you want an overall view while you're in here, you can kind of look at that. So that is just all very interesting. Oh, we've got 4 active users now. I don't know if that's any of you guys, but all right. So that is the general Google Analytics, analyze this kind of little tutorial. Do you guys have any questions about this or anything you want to add to it? No? Yeah, I'm trying to make this page bigger. I'm gonna get out of there, stop share, okay. All right, since you don't have any questions or anything, let's continue on. So not next week, because we're gonna take the week off. We're gonna go on vacation next week, or moving vacation, I should call it. The week after, we are going to talk SEO. So that's what we are gonna get into. We're gonna talk about SEO, how to improve it on your website, how to improve it in on your social media, how to improve it on, like if you're using any of the platforms like YouTube, anything that's attached to Google. And so we're gonna really get deep into SEO and tips and tricks on like how to improve it. And also not just SEO, but keywords. I mean, SEO and keywords are pretty interchangeable, but when we're on something like Pinterest, we don't call it SEO, we call it keywords. So we're gonna kind of dive into each platform and how we can do a better job of being found, because the whole point of SEO and keywords is being found, right? What we were looking at now with analytics is what happens when people get to you, how they find you, what they do when they get there, no matter what platform we're talking about, whether it's your website, Pinterest, Instagram, whatever. You know, what they do, if they make purchases, if they bounce off, that sort of thing. With SEO and keywords, we just want to improve people finding you. It's not if you build it, they will come world, unfortunately. If you spend a lot of time and money putting up your website, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get traffic there. So Gwen, did you finish your website and get it launched?
My first website, I did just kind of like, winging it. Mm-hmm. And so, no, right now I'm meeting with my like branding people tomorrow. And, because it all starts from like, the story and messaging first. So it's probably going to be another like month or so before I relaunch. But yeah, I have all this morning is just SEO and analytics and it's so overwhelming. But yeah, so this is timely.
It is overwhelming. And the thing is, it's great that you have this information, because now you're kind of like, your toolkit's preloaded, right? Like you have all the right tools. So as you're setting up your website, you can make sure that these things are all in place and ready to go. It doesn't necessarily mean you have the time to like sit down and analyze it all and work on it all right now. But when you're ready, once you've got it launched and running, once you're ready, it's like, okay, I know exactly these terms. I know what I'm looking for. I know what I want to improve or, want to look at. Jess, you recently launched your website. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're looking at right now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So like when I went through the whole process of like telling my story and then getting the website developer to actually put it into play. And that was like the longest and I guess most stressful part, because I really wanted to make sure that they conveyed the message the way I wanted it to be. And it seemed like me, and I wanted it to be really genuine. But I'm interested, I'm going to have them go back and put this code in so that I make sure I don't mess anything up with the analytics. But I mean, for me, the developer I used was really smooth. The website, they made sure, like you said, that everything worked mobile, the same as it does online. And we use Squarespace. I know everybody has their own, preferences, but I've really liked it so far. I think it's really user friendly. I'm able to really easily put my blogs up, and they just created like a bunch of templates for me. So I just choose one, copy it, and then put my blog in. So
I missed the last couple of sentences you said. I'm sorry. My husband was
talking about
me.
how they created templates for me.
Oh,
So
okay.
if anybody's doing it and they plan on blogging, that was a really helpful thing for me, because I was pretty clueless when it came to doing the blog.
That's awesome. That's very good. I have seen that you've been posting blogs or at least content, right? And
I don't know if anybody's reading them because I don't have the analytics, but
get it set up. Yeah, get it set up. And it'll take a little while for the analytics to catch up, and you want to see some use and some things out of it. But Jess is a great example. She has spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, and her heart building this website, right? She's starting a business, like all of us are, business women and entrepreneurs, and she's starting this business and putting all this energy and heart into it. I did the same thing when I had the Mama Crush. Like, I put all this time and effort and energy, and I wanted to have the right aesthetic and the right feel and the right story and all these things. And those are all extremely important steps, but I never went in and looked at the analytics and then saw what was happening with it. Right. And I kick myself now because I'm like, when you build it, it doesn't necessarily mean people come, right? You can put the little URL in your Instagram profile and your Facebook profile, but unless you're doing all the right things and making sure that you're targeting the right people with the right messages, then it's kind of all for naught. So I don't want any of you to waste your efforts or your heart or your passion. Let's use these analytics and make it worth your time, right? Dana and Diana, and Dana might have hopped off. So Diana, you get to be the answer here, has been doing this a long time. Both of them have been bloggers for a long time. Both of them are familiar with Google Analytics. Both of them are familiar with, and Diana, like she said, she's working on her SEO right now. If you want to kind of give us a little kind of synopsis or update on what's going on with you.
Oh boy.
Well, I know you've been
Well,
working on this for a while. I mean, I know it's been like I've known you since October, and this has been a big goal for you and a big, thing to work on. So,
yeah. So I would say since March of last year, I've been working on, once I figured out, analytics are a thing and you can get so much information from it, and the more conferences and stuff I went to, so I paid a lot of money to find that stuff out. This is great information. Like people go to conferences and like spend weekends in hotels and stuff like for this kind of thing. But, I started using that information a little bit in a bit of a wiser way, and obviously trying to see like what things were popular, whatever. But yeah, it's going to be a while for me because I have so much content that I'm basically I'm combing through old content, getting rid of stuff that no longer serves anyone, and then repurposing and updating a lot of stuff that is so I think I told you guys I had an audit in December. In December, I paid like good money to have somebody look at my blog, and basically like all they do is tell you like, these are all the things that are wrong that you've been doing wrong. They don't fix it for you. You have to do that yourself or hire people to do that. So it's just a process. And so for the next, I would say if I'm consistent with this, I would say it's going to be like 2 years before I'm even close to done, like making a dent in
Nobody get too worried though. She's been doing this for like a long time. So.
Yeah. But I mean, because there are over 700 posts.
Right.
So for you guys, I think it's really great that you go into it knowing this information, because when I started blogging, even bloggers didn't know that this stuff existed, and some of this stuff didn't exist. Some of the social media platforms that are around now don't exist. So I've had to sort of, the longer that you're in something, the more you have to sort of be adaptable to whatever the changes are that are going on in the industry. And, Google in itself is its own thing where it's like, changing, ever changing. And so some things that were okay last year are no longer okay. So I have to make updates on that. And, it's just an ever-changing thing. So I think it's really good that, especially if you're just now starting, it's definitely overwhelming, but it's better to go ahead and go into it knowing all this stuff and try to get everything set up. And even I would say like maybe start, if you're doing a blog or if you have a website, do it for like, 6 months to a year, and then maybe hire someone if you can to take a look and kind of tell you if you're on the right track, or help you fix any mistakes before you're too far off the mark, because then you don't have as much stuff to go back and fix like what I'm doing now. But for me, it's going to be just a lot of repurposing of old content, which is fine. I feel like I can update it to like make it more pertinent to today. And basically like the fact that like something on my blog existed 9 years ago kind of gives that page more pull on Google, just the fact that it was there.
Right.
So what I'm doing is going back and like trying to use those existing posts as a foundation, and then like restructuring within the post to make it something that I can push back to the top again, and then sort of like remarket it. So that's kind of the stage that I'm at.
Ooh, girl.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's like a headache every day.
But like she said, most of us are not in the same boat as her and Dana, who have been doing this for 10 years, 700 posts, that sort of thing. So a lot of us, you can start with just your pages alone, like just your website pages. You're not necessarily looking through all these posts and such. Yes, if you are posting blog posts, you want to do it in there as well. Like start now. But it's a good idea to use these analytics to look at your pages themselves and to say, for instance, the whole mobile thing, knowing where your people are looking at your website and then going in and making sure that each page is mobile friendly, is, gold. It's really gold. And it's something you can do yourself most of the time. I don't want to say that you guys can all do that, but most of the time. And one thing that, as I was going through this and thinking about this, because it reminded me what Diana said that she had her audit done, is when I get the Business Casual website launched, which you guys, it really is coming along. I've just had to like take a pause this week because I'm trying to get these last minute things done for the house, but it is almost done. I want to add a section though of, and I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but a spot where we can, on there, like a page on there where we can audit each other if you want it done. So it's a little different for somebody like Diana, who's had her website forever and had her, 700 blog posts. But for instance, like Jess recently launching her website, or Gwen about to, and you can pop in there and say like, hey, here's my website link, can some of you go look at it and give me your thoughts or whatever, and almost do like our own audits for each other. But I'm working on like how to set this up and structure, because I don't want anybody feeling like criticized or anything. And it's only volunteer. Like if you want, maybe you created a new opt-in and you're like, I just want somebody to look at this and tell me what they think. You have these 40 plus women in our group who are all, familiar with what an opt-in is and that sort of thing, and can give you a fresh set of eyes. And you could put it on, this page and let everybody look at it, or link it, whatever, and let everybody look at it and give you their thoughts or their ideas. I don't want it to turn into like a critical thing where people are like, oh my God, they ripped it to shreds. I feel like a crap, but there's going to be a way. We're smart ladies. Like there's got to be a way to do it so that we can use each other's resources. If I come up with a new opt-in, I would love to have all y'all's opinion before I put it out into the world, or if I come up with, a new, if I have a new page on my website, I want you guys to look at it before I make it live, and show you guys and say like, would you do this? Or a sales page. That's a great thing to do. Like, does this intrigue you? What do you think? That sort of thing. So there is going to be a section on our BCM membership site that is going to be for this type of thing. So knowing that we're all not professionals at this, unless you are, like Noelle does Pinterest for a living. So if we're on there and I'm like, hey, look, go to my Pinterest page and tell me what you think or whatever, to everyone, and not putting the pressure on just Noelle, but knowing that everyone has a valuable opinion, whether it's from an area of expertise or just an area of, I'm a fresh set of eyes and I'm in your target audience. So let me tell you what I think, let me tell you. So I think it will be a really great resource. I just have to structure it right so that nobody is like, and I don't think any of you would ever bash each other. I know we're all very like uplifting to each other, but I just want to make sure that, that's how it is. Jen's still on here. Jen's done that on our Facebook group that is basically non-existent, but our Facebook group before, like, hey, take a look at this. This was early on, but like, take a look at this. This is an email opt-in I have or whatever. Or we would do it when we met in person too. You know, we would say like, what about this for a name? Jen is a great example. She did that, and we would all give our opinions. It doesn't mean she has to use them, but she's like, okay, great. You know, jotting down the ideas. So it's going to be the same thing on the website. I'm trying to make it so that it's more interaction between us. And I just think this is a really great idea. And I'll volunteer Illuminated's website to be first to audit. So you guys can tell me, and it won't hurt my feelings. I didn't design it. So
It's just like consumer research, basically.
exactly. Really.
But
I
with
mean,
people that can, you know, can provide value as well.
right.
Which,
Because we're all a little bit knowledgeable in all these different things, right? You know, and some of us more areas than others, but we're all a little bit knowledgeable. But we're also, even if you don't know anything about an email opt-in, you're a fresh set of eyes, and many of us are in each other's target audience. So I just think it's a really, there's no reason we shouldn't be using each other. We would do it if we were meeting in real life, you know, and I want to make that a possibility for us even online. So,
I will say
okay.
too that really quickly, that for
Yeah.
anyone that's just beginning, something that I see consistently over and over again shared by like all experts is that as long as you're really looking at user experience as the main priority when you're developing anything, whether it's an app or a social media post or a blog post or whatever, or website, as long as you are prioritizing the user experience, because sometimes actually like blogs and things that are not necessarily doing things technically correct but have a really great user experience do better than the ones that have people that are like technically doing all this stuff. And it's because, you know, it makes people want to come back. It makes it easy for people to find the information that they want. So whenever you're developing anything, whether it's a blog post or a full website, I would start with that. And I think that I appreciate that, Leanne, like the fact that, you know, you want us to all kind of like be the eyeballs for each other, because that's basically what you need, is just people that are, it would be great if it was in your demographic of the people that generally visit your site or whatever, but I think that that's super useful because that's like top priority 100%. So
I love that. I actually wrote that down. Like, number one is user experience, no matter what we're doing. A good example too, when I had my boutique, the Mama Crush boutique, it was a Shopify website. It was pretty simple, but I just tried to make it as simple and easy as possible with cute pictures. And I got compliments all the time on that website. Like, people would say, your website is so easy to use. It's so simple to shop. It's so easy to find what I'm looking for. And I'm like, I mean, thanks Shopify, but you know, it really made me feel good. Like, okay, it was my first time ever setting up a website, a e-commerce store, or anything like that. And I was like, well, I must be doing something right, you know? And I think sometimes we can overcomplicate things, right? If people that are super technical, sometimes we can overcomplicate it because we just assume that everyone else out there knows exactly what we're talking about or what we're trying to accomplish. But
especially if you're trying to emulate, like let's say for me, if there was a blog that I follow that I've followed for years and I just love what they do, that works for their audience, not for mine. So like, even if you're doing the exact same thing, it may not, the formulation for them works because they've taken a look at their analytics and they've seen what their users want. But for me, that may be like the end of it. Like, it could just completely like derail everything. So, you know, don't compare yourself either, because everybody's like analytics are different. So like, if you have an older audience, for example, they're not going to want the same things as if you have like a millennial audience, you know? So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's overwhelming with Illuminated that our audience is an older audience, right? So sometimes we get requests for models that are younger for our website and stuff, but I'm like, that's not going to help. I mean, great. Yeah. It sounds great. Like, it'd be great to see our clothes on younger people, but I'm not chasing the younger audience, right? So it's not really going to benefit me to spend the time and the money and the pictures and the effort and the redoing the website and all that stuff to put younger models on there just to please a couple of people, right? So you really do have to think of your majority audience and your target audience. So I love it. Thanks so much for the input. All right. If we are good, I'm going to end our meeting. Let me just make sure in the chat we didn't miss anything. We did not. Next week we're off. The week after, we're coming back with SEO and keywords, so be ready. And I will be in North Palm Beach next week. Anyone around live in North Palm? Most of us are Jupiter to Cuesta people, I know, but I will be in Jupiter to Cuesta a lot. But if anybody wants to come check out my new house, just let me know. So. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you. Thanks for all the input, ladies. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.